I dropped a bottle of paint on my foot.
Oh.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and now it's black and blue. I just want to let everyone know that happened.
What part of your foot got the brunt of it?
Like the very top.
Oh, like the vein part?
Yes. The vein part.
That sucks. So like everything you do, you feel that vein kind of like going over every bone and sinew of your body.
It's like throbbing, and like now I hate this tube of paint. Why is it that heavy?
What color paint was it?
It was white.
Okay. All right. So if it had been like swirled black and blue paint, I would have been like, actually, that's not that impressive.
How do you think?
Like if you dropped black and blue paint and you're like, now my foot's black and blue, I'd have been like, all right, you're
one of those like
time dramatic.
You know, it's one of those time saver paints. Like if you're doing a little bit of trim.
That makes me think of, I've been having a weird foot thing. Do you guys want to hear my weird foot thing?
Okay.
Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it.
It is the smallest thing in the world, but it's driving me crazy. It is that my second and third toes on my right feet seem to be rubbing together constantly. Like they seem to have gotten closer. Like they developed a closer relationship and now they're annoying me at all times.
I know exactly what you mean. Like,
really?
Like they're touching in places they didn't touch before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is happening? Is this something that happens to old people?
How long are we talking?
It's been like a week now.
That's too long for it to not be true. Like I would say, you know, you were hyper aware of them touching because like you had like an ingrown nail or something before. Now, like there is definitely a physical change in your feet.
Is it because we're getting older and our bones are are our bones curling in together, causing toe chafing?
You know, old people talk about their backs and they talk about their, their digestion.
Oh, they don't tell you shit because they know you're not going to understand until it happens to you. Old people shut up. Like, considering how much is going on with them, they shut up around us.
Like, no one's going to care about my two toes until it happens to them.
No, well, no one. Yeah, we care. I mean, you know, you've got our captive attention here, but we do care.
Meredith, you got any foot issues?
Yeah, do you have any, like, did you drop some paint on your feet or
issues with my feet? Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, when I was pregnant like 7-8 years ago, my feet did change, which is also like something you only find out if you like carry a baby to term, is that things about your body change and sometimes they don't change back. Nothing is guaranteed to go back. And most likely the change is at least semi-permanent. So my feet definitely got bigger, but they did get smaller again. But I feel like it just helped me build acceptance, you know, that like some shit's gonna change and it's probably not gonna be better and nobody's like, the world simply won't care.
These are my feet. There's no other feet like them.
Oh my
They may be good, they may be bad, but they're my feet.
That's right.
It's very sweet, Matt.
You know, we didn't have like a punchline here, but I think it's time to start the intro.
But I know this is a good moral, feel good story about feet.
We're building a philosophy here. This is a long form thing. You know, an hour from now it will come to fruition.
Wait, guys, philosophy.
Yeah, there you go.
Fuck out of here. Everyone, welcome back to Save Your Game, also known as the Philosophy podcast, where we are building something about feet, something feel good. Feet good? Feel good? No, there's something there. With me as always, yes, Matt?
No, I'm just saying, with you as always, your philosophy foot.
What? I'm sorry, what?
There is a website called philosophy.com.
No!
It's about feet fitness and fashion shouldn't be painful, it says. Which
I thought you said feelussomefeet.com. That's a website too.
Wait, is that available? Because
let's find out.
No, please.
Looking to register some new domains over here.
Look, everybody, this is going to be an exciting episode because it's kind of like a full circle moment for the podcast. Our very first episode, we talked about a brilliant, darling little game called Perfect Tides. And now, here on episode 51, we have with us the creator of said game, artist, writer, comic book creator, video game developer, Meredith Gran. Welcome to Save Your Game.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. It's like a year, like 1 year, full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Amazing.
been going for over a year. We keep forgetting on streaming to tell people that. Like, we had our 50th episode last week. Totally didn't even regard it. We've been going over a year.
I'm here to help you.
But now that we've come full circle, we can go die.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now we've fulfilled our mission.
I accept it. I accept death whenever.
We can lay down. Meredith, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's, spring has sprung to put this episode in a timeline context.
That's true. It is literally like spring today, right?
I think yesterday was day one.
Yeah, either yesterday, a couple days ago. Yeah.
It was beautiful over here yesterday. Now it's a little cold. How is it up in Chicago, Roses?
Who knows? Honestly, like last week it was 70, and then yesterday it was 35, and then the day before it was snowing. So I don't know. We don't have spring.
Well, I will actually be up in Chicago in like a week, so you better get that weather.
Well, why
under
is
fucking
that,
control.
Matt? Would you like to tell the people why you will be in Chicago?
It's Roses' birthday.
It's my birthday!
Woo!
Woo!
I don't
Meredith,
know.
you want to come to my birthday?
Yeah. Can I bring a 6-year-old child?
Ooh,
No. You would not like me to do that.
I'm thinking about it. I mean, kids love me. They love the tattoos. Probably get along.
Yeah, no.
But
also a fan of video games.
Well, that's good. Well, that's perfect. But they might not enjoy being around all of our raunchy friends, so it could be a problem.
So, Meredith, you've been working hard on the sequel to Perfect Tides, Station to Station, huh?
Yes, it's intensely hard for close to wait, how long has it been? It's been 3.5 years, 3 years and change now.
Wow.
So I'm coming to the end, but there is still so much to do.
Did you start working on it like right away?
Yeah, like the day after I released the first.
Oh my god!
You didn't even take a minute to be like bask in the glow.
I tried, but the response to the first game triggered a manic episode in me, and I started writing. I wrote it very quickly, and I'm still like everything I'm doing it comes from that one writing session.
Wow.
Not to fan out on you too much, but like your game is often this podcast's reference for things like authorship in video games and video games having like a solid message or point to them. Perfect Tides is like this in its gameplay, in its writing, in its setting, in its art. It all has like this cohesive like statement to it. Does that feel when you're working on a sequel, do you feel like I know we're not the only ones to think that or to have told you that. So is there any sort of intimidation that comes with making a sequel like this also? Like I can't I also have to live up to this thing? Or is it just like, I'm just going to make another game. Hopefully people like it.
Well, thank you for saying that. That's really lovely. What a lovely thought to be so cool and not be tormented over, how your game will be regarded. I will say that like when it comes to the story, I do feel pretty strongly that I once again have something to say. I'm approaching this with strong intent, like the last game. I will say that it causes me more anguish to be making what I see as a more designed game this time around. I think I was actually a little bit more free from concern the first time around, because I knew so little about making a game that there really wasn't any pressure to make a good game. I was really just trying to live up to my own expectations. And now that I am unfortunately cursed with the knowledge of what makes a game good or bad, I do feel a little bit more pressure to to make something that is that has intent in that way. And it remains to be seen how people will receive that.
We were talking to Dave Gilbert
Mhm.
about Perfect Tides actually a couple episodes ago, because we were talking about nostalgia and how it can be a thing that holds art back, or it can be a tool
Hmm.
Mhm.
that people use. And I think so in Perfect Tides 1, you're talking your story was about a very specific time in a person's life, and also a specific time in history. And that's what made like the pixel art of it all feel so relevant, right? Did you have any thoughts about like the art style as like you're making a sequel that is in the future, and she's
Hmm.
growing up as a different
Hmm.
time period? Did you think about like the art style?
Um, I gave that some consideration. I mean, I would say like the art style of the first Perfect Tides, and then like by extension the second one. I don't know if it's really in line with the time period I'm writing about ever.
Okay.
When we start in the year 2000, I feel like the art I'm making is already kind of something from like the early 90s.
Yeah.
And for me, that is, I suppose that's nostalgic in sort of a different way, where I'm writing about uh I'm writing about myself, but I feel smaller than I am. I feel younger than I am, and my most innocent thoughts are more innocent and more juvenile than they were then. Like I feel like
Mhm.
every step of it is almost an exaggeration of how I feel and how I feel that I felt, and it just
Yeah.
reaches back and reaches back. And I think that makes for like something that aesthetically is a little bit arbitrary. I think if I was going to make a game that actually was set aesthetically in the year 2000, the characters would be in 3D.
I was just gonna say it would
Yeah.
be ugly. It would have to be that very like Gabriel Knight 3, post Grim Fandango.
Hmm.
What was also popular? I mean, I guess Mario 64 was one of the major proponents, but yeah,
a
it would have
well
to be
drawn
3D.
a well drawn face clumsily wrapped around five polygon.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yes,
Um,
and none of the characters speak. So I don't know that I don't know that I cherry picked. I actually think the first game aesthetically is quite loyal to a certain period of time in gaming, but it is not the period of time that the game is about.
And I have
right.
to say, like, when I played Perfect Tides, I didn't really connect that to the time. I just really appreciate the aesthetic because it's, it reminded me of your comic style. It also reminded me a little bit of Willie Beamish,
Hmm.
which I like. I have such a soft spot for that kind of cartoony, uh, full color saturation type of artwork. But I feel like I didn't connect it with the year 2000 because mostly I was in my feels about, being on AOL or AIM, whichever one, you were using at the time, and chat rooms and little romances online. And
Hmm.
that's, yeah, that's, it
Well,
makes me sad and wistful.
I think maybe that's where I connect the two. Maybe like you're saying, from not necessarily from the time.
Yeah.
Now that you're saying that, maybe it's more just like if you were a person of that age
Mm.
at that time, you would have grown up with games like this. But that'll be true of her if you made a game when she's 70 in the year 2050.
For sure.
That's true. Maybe I will.
Yeah.
I'll have to collect some research first, but that sounds like a good idea.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I have the feeling nostalgia is going to come up quite a bit, just between this conversation and Freddy Pharkas, and
Hmm.
Oof.
I think there is something like a little bit insidious about nostalgia and
Mhm.
and inherently a lie about it.
Yeah.
And when I decided to write a period piece about being a certain age and a certain time, I did not want to lean on the things that I thought was a lie. I actually wanted to um, go back and face those things and speak about them frankly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that actually ends up being sort of an anti-nostalgia, even though it does inspire nostalgia in people.
Yeah.
What I'm looking to pull out of people is something true about that time, not something, maybe I am looking to pull the lie out, but I'd like to analyze it. I'd like to examine it a little bit and see its facets. I don't want to just look at, as we have now been seeing more and more as millennials ease into middle age, very
Ah!
reluctantly. The oil painting of two children playing in a basement, in a warm basement, and everything's right and everything makes sense. And if you have any actual, if you are not totally refusing to confront any actual memories of that time, that's not really what it was like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I kind of like I'm kind of at odds with nostalgia, even as the nostalgia may be something that sent me on this journey to begin with.
Well, I love that because nostalgia can, for a lot of people and in a lot of media, unfortunately, be very thoughtless,
Mm.
right? It can be very much just like, oh, this is something you're like relying on old tricks, or like this is something that I liked back in the day, and so I'm just going to do that. Relying on like, I'm just going to try to make this as much like the thing that I used to like as possible.
Mhm.
But you are, again, like you said, you're approaching it from the opposite place, like an incredibly thoughtful place, which I
And I
think,
thought, yeah, I thought it was very successful in that way,
yeah,
because when I go back and think about, wistfully about being on the computer and chatting with people, it's not. It's not that made me want to do it again. It didn't. That is a time in my life that is over. But it did make me very thoughtful and made me think about those times and when my dad was still with us. So I think, Dave Gilbert and I, we talked a lot about like intentional writing and being intentional with things.
Mhm.
And I think that's intentional nostalgia. It's not nostalgia just because yay pixel art and yay AOL. I think there is a bigger message there. So
there's a quest in your game, Meredith, where Mara has to like she has to like go on a dangerous mission to secretly restore her own internet.
Mhm.
And I did that, right? Like I
yeah.
had, I at one point I had like an old ass computer in my room, and I somehow got my hands on a modem, like an old modem, and I installed it. I taught myself how to install a modem into my computer. And then I ran a phone, like a phone splitter and secret phone line through my basement and up through my floor so that I could get on the internet late at night with my
Wow.
parents not knowing. And they never
Amazing.
knew.
That's so cool.
Hmm.
Yeah,
My
like
my mom would like try to steal like my mouse away, but I had extra mice in my drawers. Come
you know
on
some
now.
keyboard shortcuts
Yes, yeah, I got
that
yeah,
stop you.
yeah. And then they tried to take the keyboard, and I also had an extra keyboard, so
Yeah.
I would just hook those up, and before they woke up, I would slide it back into my drawer like nothing happened.
Yeah, that was something I tried to touch on in the game too, is the idea that like during this period where the internet was like this, there was also such a huge gap in understanding between us and our parents, that like our parents didn't know what we were doing on there, not
Yeah.
really. And
Yeah,
that meant that if they tried to get us away from it, we had ways of figuring out how to get back on that they wouldn't even consider.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, if they knew what I was doing online, I would be banned forever. Fun times, I think.
So, uh, greatly looking forward to um, Perfect Tides, station to station, and but why don't we talk about? Okay, first, before we talk about what we're here to discuss today, have either of you guys been playing any video games lately?
No.
Ooh.
No, because I've been considering this is for, you guys and the listeners only, been considering doing a couple game review videos for YouTube, which is not something I do very often anymore. So I've been having some ideas floating around in my brain, but I will not say what they are. You will just have to wait.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think like we need more long form considered reviews of games. It really bums me out kind of looking at the current landscape and wondering if anybody is going to talk at length about what I do or what
Yeah.
people I admire do. And I think videos and reviews are very time consuming and difficult to find any sort of like publication that is willing to pay for that sort of thing. And it really is a labor of love, much like the games that enjoy modest
Yeah.
sales, if that. So I think that's wonderful to.
Yeah. It's certainly diminished returns. Let's just say that, and that's why I pivoted my channel to doing, other things I love, talking about Murder, She Wrote. And I also and I've talked about this, I think, at length in other episodes, but I had a bad experience in the gaming community that kind of drove me away a little bit. But every now and then, especially if I want to champion, an indie adventure game, every now and then something will really hit me and I'll want to, do a deep dive. And I think that's why we kind of started this podcast, right, Matt?
Yeah, because I love doing long form reviews, and I just love talking about video games on a level beyond just like, oh, wasn't that cool?
Yeah.
And writing reviews for Adventure Gamers and then Adventure Game Hotspot, it scratched that itch to an extent, but like you said, Meredith, it's a lot of work, right?
It is a lot of work.
Takes a long time to write those reviews and then edit those reviews and to consider every angle. And when I'm writing reviews, I try to avoid any other media about that game.
Yeah.
So it affects your life, like you're creating, you're cooking.
Yeah, and that's why some like my 1000x resist video or review went up roughly 9 months after the game debuted.
Yeah. Like when you're doing video review, sometimes the worst part is playing it for work, because you try to play it without a walkthrough, to get a good sense of it. But if the game is hard, you're going to get stuck. And I have hours upon hours, like hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage of just video games on my hard drive. And that makes it tough, And God forbid you miss something, because the audience will come at you and be like, can't believe you didn't see that one pixel.
But, I think it's cool also to review things late. I think, we're all so swept up in this idea that like something comes out and it dies on the vine like a week after it's out. And, I've struggled with that mentality myself. And I've realized that, when something is made, it's out there and it's made for good. And, I think, there's nothing that makes me happier than seeing people appreciate things later on. It tells me that the work is still potent and there's still something more to say about it. And, it doesn't need to be this thing that everybody experiences at the exact same time. That's, that's for that's what the publishers would like. But I just, it's not necessary for us to enjoy things that way. And talk critically about them.
I reviewed the majority of the games I did review. They're from the 90s and 80s. So I'm definitely not like these are very old adventure games.
Though there is that time in the middle, right, between when something has become a classic or something has become, an old, quote unquote, older game, and when it's a new game, there's this maybe period of 10 years in the middle where it is kind of gauche to revisit it. It's like, it's not old enough yet, and it's not new enough, and no one cares. Like if I made a video about Pal World now,
oh man.
But yeah. Anyway, it is, Meredith, what you're saying about. You mentioned briefly that's what the publishers would like, and I do think that is I think I complain about this a lot on the show, actually, is this idea of how deeply capitalism has sort of wormed its way into the culture of people who like art, people who are fans of things. And there's so much like it's almost like we all have to be industry monitors rather than just fans of a thing for its artistic merit. Like it seems like people feel compelled these days to see like, oh, will this sell? And oh, did the like, how is this thing doing on the market? And I could not care less about that. I care about what a piece of art is saying. It is just like this mind rot that is seeped in from, I guess, investor culture or something. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say we kind of touched on that with, Dave Gilbert in our last episode and kind of the pressures and putting out deadlines and, pleasing your higher ups. And it's got to be so tough because this is still, especially in the indie world, this is art. I know you're creating a product too. I'm an artist, so I create art and I create a product. But man, it's just so the pressure is on sometimes,
Well, I just, when I think higher ups, like, it's just like the guy upstairs, that's the only higher up for me. For me, just like my belief that, art is worth living for and it makes life great. And saying things the way I want to say them is the most important part. And on a daily basis, I don't get to actually think about that because I need to make choices that are going to make this game come out so that I can move on with my life. And I want to, in that time, I want to make sure as many people as possible know about it so that I can feel like I gave it my best shot. But ultimately, when the dust settles, I would only be disappointed in myself if I didn't do the thing that I wanted, that I thought was absent from the world and that I could possibly add to the world. So, I really do try to like keep my eyes on that and remind myself that like anything else, like when it comes to marketing, I can look back and say like, here's what I did wrong. Here's where I missed the mark or whatever. But, honestly, that stuff gets written retroactively, like nobody follows the Balatro playbook expecting their game to be a hit. And it would be ridiculous to do so. It's kind of like this mythologizing we do, that we look at something that's a hit and we try to tear down every detail about it and figure out why it succeeded. But you can't make anything out of that. Like you can't make anything great out of that or worthwhile. So I really try not to focus on that. And I think anyone who does is they're really fooling themselves. At best, they're going to generate something safe out of that. They're never going to create this thing that, to me, we were put on Earth to create. Our weird freak vision that only we can convey.
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Feel very inspired right now.
Oh man, you hit both of them, Roses. I'm an artist and I feel very inspired.
I know, I got both of them in there.
Got both of them into the segment.
I don't know if you knew this, Meredith, but I am an artist. I don't know if you were aware.
Oh, you also got Chicago in here, so man,
I hit all
batting
of them.
1,000 today. But I don't want to. Before we move on to our next segment, I don't want to deprive you of the ability to answer if there's anything you've been playing, Meredith, that you wanted to mention.
Oh yeah. Let's see. Other than Freddy Pharkas, I have been playing a little bit of The Dig.
The Dig, classic.
Yeah. It's the only LucasArts game that I played as a kid. I think I played it when I was like 12 or 13.
Wait, you played like the hardest LucasArts game as a kid?
And the most obscure one.
Yeah. No, I mean, every game I had was a game that like, while I was at Caldor with my mom, it would be like discounted. And I would grab the cheap adventure game. Yeah. And so every adventure game I played was years old. And the world had already left it behind
Yeah.
to some extent. And I became very obsessed with the dig. And in my house, we never called the hint lines because like we'd never get permission to do that. But it was mostly like me and my brother would just play the game for months or years. And
Oh,
one of
yeah.
us would like make a breakthrough and be like, yo, you can click that. And that would just, that would just set the whole thing in motion again. And we'd forget about it again. And it took us probably like 2 years to beat the dig. And I remember like after I beat the dig, I was a young teenager and I was at the height of obsession with the dig. And I was in a grocery store and I saw the novelization of the dig there.
Oh.
And that was like the greatest day of my life. That was the day when I actually felt like I had made something exist with my mind. It has never quite happened like that
Holy
again.
cow.
Amazing. Oh, you must have been so excited.
Yes. Oh, I devoured that. Just
I remember banging my head against that turtle puzzle for so long.
oh yeah, no, it's unbearable how
It's
hard.
tough.
Yeah, very hard game. It's got like the 2D look, we can do 2D animation too, kind of like CD-ROM era of adventure game art. Not super different from King's Quest 7, and
Yeah.
I feel like I kind of took that with me a little bit when I did my own like cutscene animation and stuff, like this idea that like you can have like a slightly cooler looking close-up version of your characters, even though like some of that cutscene artwork is like a bit cringe to me now, but I actually love that about it. I actually love that me and my brother talk about like old crappy things like this, and we use this word crundus for things like that, where it's like that's pretty crundus, but like what you're saying is like it's actually kind of good because you know that it was made by like one person.
Yes,
like for
Right.
instance,
yes.
like the echoey voices in King's Quest 5 are really crundus. Like they just
They're
went through the
terrible.
office. They went
Awful.
through the office with a microphone and were just like, "Hey, can you do this guy's voice?" And they're like, "Thank you for buying a pie." It's like
they're not even consistently the same type of bad. Like
Yes.
sometimes you're in
Yes.
like a tin can. Sometimes it's all crunchy.
I love
I
it.
love it. Yeah,
I love it. And I really do think that instilled a belief in me. Even though I didn't understand how games were made, it made me think, okay, well, like nothing has to be like perfect in this. You can just make something with whatever you have. And
Yes.
you can convince people that it's real. You can breathe life into it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is, I think that really is, you can see that really strongly in especially the humor of the game we're talking about today.
Oh my god.
It's clearly, it's such an extension of what one guy thinks is funny.
Yeah.
And just
maybe two. I have some thoughts on that. Maybe two.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think, why don't we first, since you suggested it, Meredith, why don't you tell everybody what we played, what we're going to be talking about today?
All right, so we're playing the DOS classic, Freddy Pharkas, Frontier Pharmacist. It came out in 1993, published by Sierra, and it was written by Al Lowe, the humor games writer behind the Leisure Suit Larry series.
Yeah.
And I played this game once again, found it in a bargain bin in Caldor in the 90s, and it has remained an object of great fascination to me for many, many years.
Oh my God.
I would absolutely say that, like, look, I'm not going to recommend that you run out and grab it, but I will say that if you like Perfect Tides, you will find some direct lines from that game to my game. And I haven't honestly, I haven't played through the whole thing in a while, and there were places where I was quite surprised with what I saw.
Yep.
And I'm very eager to talk about it.
Hell yes. Okay, that's a great little teaser. Why don't we play some? Hold on, let me bring up my table. Why don't we play some Sunky Saucerino.
Oh.
What could that even possibly mean?
Sunky saucer. I like it.
And we'll come back and we'll talk about Freddy Pharkas, Frontier Pharmacist.
Yeehaw!
Hey everyone, welcome back to Save Your Game. I am one of your hosts, Pushing Up Roses, and with me, as always, the very strong, the very energetic, special boy Matt Aucamp. Hi, Matt.
Hey, sorry, give me a second. I got to put down this 700-pound weight.
Wow. Oh, wow.
And
Just benching
good.
700. Hey. Amazing.
Yeah, well, I was holding it up the whole intro.
You're just doing that because Meredith's here. You're just trying to impress our guests.
Yeah, I'm like, man, what pull are you doing there, man? That deadlift?
I
Bench
don't
press?
know what that means.
Oh God.
Yeah, with us is Meredith Gran.
Yes,
Hello.
thank you for joining us, Meredith, and thank you for the when we have guests on our show, we do like to leave it up to them to pick the game that we're talking about. And Meredith chose, there was a couple on board as far as I'm aware. You had suggested Freddy Pharkas and I think King's Quest V. Is that correct?
Laura Bow 2 was the other one I suggested.
Oh, Dagger. Yeah. Oh my God. That's what I think we've already talked about it in depth, but I'll talk about it more.
Okay.
It's
you're okay. You're doing anything to not talk about Freddy Pharkas.
I'm sorry. You know, why would you guys do this to me? Why would you bring this back into my life?
Okay. I'm just gonna say my initial overall feeling.
Okay.
I kind of liked it. I kind of liked
fair.
this game. I kind of enjoyed it.
I think that's very fair. I think a lot of people, tying back to our conversation prior, it's very nostalgic for a lot of people. And this is also peak Sierra. This is gorgeous artwork. They had their lip sync technology, so all the characters are speaking. And the guy who plays Freddy Pharkas, amazing voice actor. He played Liquid Snake in Metal Gear Solid, and his list of roles is very vast. So I can see why people like it.
His list of roles is too vast.
Yeah.
I was the whole game. I was like, I know this voice, and I know it in this cadence.
Yep.
Like I know he did this sort of like goofy heroic character somewhere else, and I couldn't place it. So it's like, oh, when I get to the end of the game, I'll just look him up online, and I'll realize where I know him from. He's got such a long list of credits.
Yeah. In every medium, like anime dubbing, movies, television, video games.
I couldn't figure it out. I still don't know where I've heard this. Like this voice was so familiar to me, and I don't know where it's from.
It'll come to you. But yeah,
I don't know if I play the game again, which I probably won't.
Meredith,
I will say,
as you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll be no help when it comes to the voice acting. I played this as a text-based game when I was a kid, and I sort of like insist on keeping it that way whenever I revisit it.
Fair.
I have their voices in my head, and I find that anything else would be a disruption to that, which is one of those insidious little nostalgia things we're thinking of.
I totally understand and relate to that because I played Callahan's Crosstime Saloon I downloaded it from Home of the Underdogs, and of course it was not, the CD-ROM version. It was not voiced, and part of me still likes that because I hear their voices. I made them up myself.
Yes.
So my copy, I couldn't get the text. I couldn't get like the text to come up and work. So this is my question for you, Meredith. How familiar are you with the racism in this game?
All right.
If you can't hear the voices.
Well, I mean, look, it still comes across if you're worried.
In case you were you're worried, it's there.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I mean,
It's subtle, but
definitely
it's there.
it's definitely an extra layer of racism that I realized halfway through playing it. Like, oh, I bet they're playing it with voices and they're getting they're just
Mhm.
getting it screamed in their faces, like the
Yep.
wind is blowing on them as they're getting it. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of racist caricatures in this game that are totally indefensible. I will defend a lot of things. There is nothing to defend in that
Yeah.
area with this game. The game is it's misogynist in this particular way that they kind of correctly assume that a woman is never going to play the game.
Mhm.
There are jokes about sheep fucking.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot of the time when people remember Freddy Pharkas fondly, as they remember a lot of things fondly, they're not remembering to the full extent these things about it. And
No.
it's it's one of these insidious things about nostalgia where when you start to combine nostalgia with an academic approach to old games and old things in the form that you're interested in, you get a lot of people who like to collect racist memorabilia. You get people who are real freaks about stuff like this. And I think it's actually important to confront what these games actually are and be clear-eyed about them when we talk about them.
Yeah.
Because I will admit that when I suggested this game, I did not know just how much I would be subjecting you guys to by suggesting.
I think it's trying really hard to do kind of a Blazing Saddles-esque thing. It's trying to, I think, subvert racism by being racist, which I think we can all agree doesn't work. And it doesn't land. And so, Meredith, you mentioned that, Al Lowe was the main writer. He wrote this game and designed this game with Josh Mandel, who I want to say he's the voice of King Graham in King's Quest V. He is the King Graham, as we know King Graham to be. I have always thought that Josh Mandel was a very good writer, very, very funny. And so there are times in this game where I think the narration is just very funny and it's very cutesy. It kind of wobbles back and forth between kind of this innocent punny humor and then the humor of Al Lowe, where everything is a fart joke or a boner joke. You know what I mean?
So, Al Lowe thinks a couple things are incredibly funny. He cannot get enough of accents that are not purely American.
Yeah.
That's his favorite thing in the whole world. Puns. Everything is a pun.
Everyone's name. Let's just throw it out there. Helen back. Helen back, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
pH balance.
pH balance, yes. Which I didn't know. I don't know if they don't say that till the end, or I didn't catch it till the end. But that's one of my last things I know. Oh, pH balance. That's kind of
yeah.
That one struck me as funny for some reason. I don't know why I can't defend it.
I do like those.
There are funny moments in this game. It's got that old Western thing where it's clearly kind of criticizing some of the things of, past, or at least how we interpret, Western things. And I do think there is some clever writing in there. I attribute that to Josh Mandel. I do think it's very wordy. I couldn't remember exactly how long-winded the narration is, but I'm looking at a barrel, right? And there's a 5-paragraph essay.
I will say one of my favorite lines in that game is when you try to touch the barrel and it's no, Freddy, Thursday is your day in the barrel. Yeah. I just
You know what my favorite line is? It's so stupid, but I laughed out loud. It's when the blacksmith goes into the pharmacy and he's like, "Hey, Pharkas, my butt hurts." And I'm just I don't know why this is very funny to me.
The sprite is clinging to his butt, which is a nice visual touch. One of my favorite lines in this game is you cross this bridge to get to the anthill, and every single time you cross, no matter which direction you go, a piece of wood falls off and it says, oh gosh, if you do this again, you may only have 3 crossings left. Like
Yeah.
every single time it says the exact same thing. And I do think like stuff like this was definitely I think well, I read Al Lowe's design document of this game, so I know that was his. And I think the game does seek to fuck with you in ways that are like specific to like this time period, that like games had not really presented you with like these particular subversions before. So it's like if you like adventure games, if you like puzzles, you're gonna love this. We're gonna really mess with you and give you some things you don't expect.
What do you guys think of the this was an interesting mechanic to me when I first found Freddy Pharkas. There's a little bit of a let's call it like a management where you have to use the pharmacy to actually fill prescriptions. And I'd never seen that in an adventure game prior to playing this.
I loved it, right? Like oftentimes when they have this in games, it is simply a copy protection thing. And that might have been how it was sold to Sierra, as like, oh, this is just a bit of copy protection. But it is the main thrust of huge chunks of the game is people will talk about their problems. You have to, or the town will be going through a problem. You have to diagnose it in the manual that has all the
prescription.
Yeah, well, yeah, it has all the prescriptions, like how to make the medicine, but it also has like symptoms and what medicines are effective. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
I absolutely love the pharmacy mechanic. And again, like very formative for me. I did rip it off in perfect times with the photo development.
Okay.
I love the measuring. I love the cross-referencing of a book, which is also very entertaining.
Yeah.
Like the book itself, they put a lot of effort into making something funny that is actually worth reading. And if there's something there that I'm nostalgic for, it's this idea that this book would be a separate part of the game that is also a component of the game. And I agree with what you say, Matt, that it probably did just originate as a copy protection idea, but to me it is so foundational to the enjoyment of that game, to do the pharmacy.
Even if it was copyright, this was one of the more enjoyable ways to do copyright.
Yes.
One of my favorite games is King's Quest 3, and people don't like that game because of the copyright. It's very similar. You get a book of spells, instead of a book of like symptoms and medicines. But I found it really novel, just like it, like you guys find in Freddy Pharkas, is like going to this book of spells, and like looking up the ingredients and typing in exactly what you need to type in and all the incantations. I actually really enjoyed that. It's not as entertaining in King's Quest 3 though as it is in Freddy Pharkas. It ties in, I think, a little bit better.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you would call that part of this game, I think nowadays you would say this is like an adventure and like simulation
like
hybrid.
a life sim.
Right, yeah. It has like a simulated pharmacy mechanic, right? Like, and I think that's I always find that really cool in games where it's almost like you can sort of pretend like you're a detective, pretend like you're a pharmacist.
The dream.
But yeah, I do want to go back to, I'm sorry that we're going back to this, but I want to go back to the thing that you said, Rose, is about whether or not Al Lowe's intentions here were to be, anti-racist by being racist, right? Like this idea, this particularly Gen X.
Yeah.
Right. It's this particularly Gen X approach where it's like, oh, if we give these stereotypes, if we use them, it will remove their power, right? And I do think that all of the characters in this game are equally as respectable and equally as dumb, right? And I think that is intentional. I think like Srini, and this was a pun, the Indian sidekick, voiced by a white man.
Well, of course it was.
Doing a horrible Indian accent. And anyway, it's well, actually Pakistani, right? He eventually says he's Pakistani.
He does, yeah.
It's I think there is a thing where like I don't think Al Lowe's a racist. I think maybe possibly Al Lowe's not even sexist, right? I think he thinks it is just how you make a joke, right?
Right. And I
Absolutely.
think Gen X really, I'm sure we could pull many more examples of this. I think Gen X thinks that if they make it funny, that gives it, some levity and makes it better. Like,
How do you
I
excuse
think
Al Lowe? No, I'm just kidding.
I think today, obviously, we know that
Mhm.
just because you're trying to make something funny, it doesn't mean that it's not offensive. But I think there
Yeah.
was a time, you see that in Dagger of Amon-Ra too. I think it's lesser than Freddy Pharkas, but it's like if we just kind of make the character funny and maybe even likable, then that kind of makes it okay if we make them stereotypical because
But
it's a quote joke.
he thinks what's funny is that you can't speak English good. Like, he thinks
Yeah.
that's what's funny about it. But
Yeah.
I do again, like, and I think this was the case in Leisure Suit Larry too. I think those games are really misogynist, but I think he is trying to make some sort of point about, being this way is actually bad, and see,
Yeah.
we'll show it to you. And the women in this game, even though they are purely here as sex objects, they all have some sort of agency that even Larry doesn't always possess. And it's like, okay, I can kind of see, but like also every woman in the game is a sex object. Like, and
Yeah.
it's the same in this game too, except for maybe like one or two women, like the rest are prostitutes or love interests.
And I think in that way, though, that those games have potential or did have potential. I could see Freddy Pharkas being a good game. I'm not saying it's a bad game because it is a good quality game. There's just those problematic elements to it. I don't always like every single puzzle either. I gotta say, there's a puzzle that I got stuck on as a kid. It's the horse's flatulence puzzle. I could not believe, and I grew up on Sierra games, that they put in a puzzle trying to stop horse flatulence from poisoning the town, and if you don't get it in time, you just die. That was even for me, a Sierra apologist and defender. I was like, no, I can't. And as a kid, so I don't care about spoilers for older games. Just FYI, we can speak candidly about this.
Sure.
The solution to the game was pretty clever. You're using charcoal to diffuse kind of the fumes of it. You make like a charcoal mask. But as a kid, I'm like, what? Like, I don't know what that is.
There is zero way you could have solved that without a walkthrough.
Tough. Yeah.
Maybe. I guess Meredith, did you when you were a kid?
Yeah. Me and my brother puzzled through it. It took a while.
Yeah, I think you can
were
get
stuck
there.
on that. Yeah.
Did you think it through or just combine everything that you
Well, we looked in the manual, and it says, how to deal with flatulence.
Oh,
And
there you go.
yeah, no, and I mean, we definitely, like, somebody figured out that you could put the bag on the horse's ass and get a fart, and then like you could look up the fart.
Well, but that part I get, like that part I solved, but it's the gas mask that I'm wondering how you guys solved.
How did we solve that? I think we might have started. How did we get? Well, because if you go over to Smithy's, you collect every component you need for it, and you've almost certainly already collected the ice pick and the tin can.
Yes.
Right. So like you get everything you need in that moment. So right away we at the beginning of the game, you just start trying to combine those items. So you figure out that you can make holes, and then you figure out you can put the belt on the can now full of holes, and then you just got the charcoal, so may as well try putting that in the can. We were definitely not thinking about the gas mask, but we were thinking, like, and that's that's the problem with a lot of these games is you basically just kind of have to be somebody who's willing to combine everything and see what happens. So it doesn't really feel like you're problem solving in that moment. It feels like you're wasting time.
At least at least with that, it's like you said, you probably already have some of the inventory, and now there's only so much inventory you can even use, so you can get there through just process of elimination. But I just remember being so upset when I was younger. I'm just like, I just don't understand.
the time-based puzzles are very stressful,
They
and I
are
really didn't
stressful.
like that as a kid either. But the one puzzle that I hate in this game, that I truly, truly despise,
Mm.
is lassoing the top of the water supply tank.
Yes.
I think it is super unfair that they make you retrieve the ladder from a spent background that you're not using anymore.
Yeah.
The ladder, which by the way is it's really annoying that you can just take the ladder from the playground.
Yeah.
I think,
Um,
yeah.
but you walk literally across the entire map to get the ladder. You bring it back, you put it up there, and then you spend like 30 minutes dying trying to lasso the water supply. Which, by the way, like if you're gonna do that where you have to pull up the ladder and then use it again, at least stop the clock, because the players
Mhm.
already figured out how to fix this.
Yeah.
The timer is still running out as you're standing there after climbing up the ladder, trying to lasso the top, trying to pixel hunt. They did not even take the top bar out, so you hover over the top where you're supposed to click, and you're fighting with the menu screen to click the thing that you need to click.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh, unbearable. And then, yeah, you got to pull the ladder up and climb up again, and then you can get it. But it is so, like, I was sitting there doing it the other day, just like, you have to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. This is so stupid.
You want to know what's ridiculous though? Like, there's so much. I had to look at a walkthrough for most of this game. I got through
Yeah.
the first act without a walkthrough, and I was like, "Oh wow, I think I might be soaring through." And then there was 0 other act that I went
I
through without a
you're,
walkthrough.
like, you had
But
texted me and you're like, I kind of like this game, and I'm like, no.
but
Uh-uh.
I did get up the water tower without a
Nice
walkthrough.
job.
Oh,
Nice
really?
Figured
job.
out, yeah, that's like the one part that I was like, "Oh, this makes sense to me."
It's possible
But
I was remembering it being easier, and that messed with my ability to know what to do.
I believe everything that you're saying. Like, I agree with you that it is unfair, it is annoying, it is ridiculous. And what you said about a spent back, like, this is that era of Sierra games where pixel art had improved, but they hadn't yet figured out a way to highlight objects that you need. So
Yeah.
there's stuff in this game that had I not had a walkthrough, I would not have known to pick up the baking soda. Because to me,
Really?
it's just part of the background. It's just,
Oh,
that
okay.
could have always been there. The ladder is another one. I'm trying to think of other objects, but there's so many objects in the game that are just very much blended into the
yeah.
background.
Yes.
I would say they're all blended.
and I wouldn't even know what they were.
Right. Yeah, you really do find yourself clicking I remember clicking every last pixel of this
Yeah.
game. I will say, just while we're on the baking soda, like, the description of you taking the baking soda and putting it in your pocket is so hilarious.
It's very
is very
funny. And
funny.
that's that humor, once again, that I really appreciated, is that
Mhm.
more wholesome, kind of snarky humor. The narrator is similar to maybe narrator of Space Quest 4 or some of the Leisure Suit games. And yeah, it does have those funny moments. And I gotta say, I really like the structure of this game, where we didn't really touch on it, but basically in this town of Course Gold, somebody is being terrible and trying to run everybody out. We don't know who it is. That's part of the mystery, but somebody is sabotaging this little town and trying to run everybody out. And the ways of sabotage are amazing. I want to shine a light on the slug stampede.
Snail stampede. Yeah. How did they get the snails to come? Like, clearly that was part of it, but how did you?
I don't know, and I don't care. It's so funny to me. And like, it's just one of those things. It's like, oh, they're coming. They're gonna get there. And every time you look at the screen with the snail stampede, it's like a little bit further, a little closer.
Oh, I appreciate the effort so much that they put
Yeah.
into that. And then you get that wonderful little Lemmings tribute when you finally take them out. The kind of thing that is, not necessary, but somebody advocated for it. Like, you
Right.
need to have this. It's going to be so funny.
Yeah. But I do like that. Like, hey, like, is it every day? I think like every day there's like a new separate quest that you have to complete.
some of the chapters have a few different quests
Yeah.
within them, and then towards the end of the game, the mechanics change, and it becomes like a little bit more of like a puzzle action game
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
almost everything is timed, and you're not really using your inventory as much as like a couple of key objects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think the end, this section you're talking about, that's where it kind of loses me a little bit in terms of like enjoyment. I feel like I was liking this routine of like, gotta fill prescriptions. Oh, there's a quest, there's a snail stampede, or the horses are farting, or the water tower is, contaminated. I liked that routine part of the game.
A Freddy Pharkas that you don't get in point and clicks that often anymore, which is like, you have a quest and then you complete it, and then you have a quest and then you complete it, and you have a like, I really like that small little victories thing,
Yeah.
Mhm.
rather than just one big overall thing. Though it can get frustrating because you could think you're nearing the end of the game and then have like 7 finales, which
Yes,
is
it's
like
true.
the best chapter of this game
This
feels
game has
like.
a long ending.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
that's true. That's true. What did you guys think of the story? I mean, it's
Should we?
pretty simple.
I've been thinking, if you're a person listening to this and you don't know anything about it, has this just been insufferable? Should we go over the story real quick?
Matt, I think people have played it. I don't.
I
I
think
really, our
you-
audience. I really do think they have played it.
I think we have a lot of audience members who do not play the old classics, who play
Okay.
more modern games, and that's why I'm wondering if we should just like.
We can, we can give them. I mean, it's a pretty simple story,
Yeah.
which is why I kind of bring it up. And I did say earlier, that the main plot is that you're in this western town as a pharmacist. You're a pharmacist because you used to be like a gunslinger, but there was an incident where you were in a duel and somebody like shot your ear off. So you left that life behind. Freddy has left it behind. He is now a pharmacist for this small town of Coarse Gold. And we are put in the game when people are being run out. Like businesses are shutting down. We don't really know why. You can assume there is a villain, trying to shut down this town. And like I said, they do it in funny sabotage ways. Like somehow they got a bunch of snails and released a snail stampede, or they contaminated the water, or what was the other one? Oh, the horse flatulence.
Oh yeah, they poisoned the horses, and then they poisoned the. Then they poisoned all the people. What were some of the?
They
other
set
ones?
fires, or
the
shut
fire.
the businesses down for fire hazards.
Yeah. And you eventually find out that and you kind of know this from the beginning, that the sheriff is somehow behind it.
Yeah, that
The
trope
banker.
of like the
And-
evil sheriff,
Yeah, then it's you find out it's the sheriff and the banker. And should we just spoil the ending?
I think it's really like I think it puts a really fine point on the period piece nature of the whole thing, is that the school marm Penelope, who's like your love interest, she's from the Northeast and she knows all about oil before anybody in Podunk, California knows about it. And I actually find this really fascinating. There's one background in this game that is not used for anything. There are no items, there are no characters there. The only thing to discern from this background, which shows like a broken down railroad that tells you how has been this town is, and it shows you a swamp that has some sort of black substance in it that nobody in town understands what it is, except for Penelope, who knows that there's money under this town that has not been tapped yet. So the conspiracy really gets kicked into overdrive when she gets there and conspires with the sheriff and the bank to kick everyone out so they can take the oil for themselves. And I think that like that really I think there is a lot of it's a pastiche, and often there are very modern explanations for things, but I think they do legitimately try to write it as a story from like the late 1800s, about a fictional version of the place where now there are video game studios. And I think it's actually a really good story. I loved it when I was a kid, and I still really appreciate it.
I think I did not. I don't know if this makes me a dummy or if you guys had the same experience. I did not see the Penelope of it all coming.
Oh, okay.
I did not clock her as the villain at all.
When I was a kid, I didn't see it coming. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger, I didn't understand anything about that game, so I did not see that coming. As an adult, I think you can put it together. Maybe not on your first playthrough, because I think, Matt, you went into it very new. You hadn't played the game before, maybe taking it at face value as this Western where, oh, you have a romantic interest. That's nice, you know?
Yeah, I don't think the game shows its hand with that at all. I was kind of looking for it, and I think like really all you get is that Penelope is mostly keeps to herself, and the school remains locked. But I just took that as like the NPC has no more dialogue for you, and there's no interior of the school. So I was, it was completely obscured from me. I did not see any hint of it.
The general store owner, you never see him, right? He that's the joke, right?
Yes.
He never comes out. Okay,
He
I just
never
wanted
does.
to
until the last chapter. He walks out with us. He's walking around town with a sandwich board on.
Yeah. He gets shut down.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
But yeah, you don't. Yeah, it's the whole joke with him is he's always in the back and he's like, "I'll be out in a minute."
Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was the case.
Yeah. How about you, Roses? What did you think about the story? Did you enjoy it?
I do. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I think I enjoyed it more as a kid because it is such a simple little story, but I did like it because it fit the structure so well.
Right.
And it did feel like they did a good job of kind of intentionally writing this Western, with a it's a parody, I would call it that.
Yeah.
Of like a Western stereotype. And I did like it. I thought it was lighthearted. And that's what you're going to get with Al Lowe and Josh Mandel together. You're going to get something a little, yes, maybe a lot of toilet humor, but I can always expect it to be a little more lighthearted, even when there's a villain in the game.
Yeah, and this is sort of towards the end of the Sierra heyday, right?
Yes, and it's actually very, very self-referential for a Sierra game. It's obviously it takes place in the town that Sierra offices are located in. There is, the Sierra Mountain is actually visible
That's true.
in the game, and I figured this out just by reading the design document. But Kenny the Kid, Freddy's rival from childhood, is supposed to be he's supposed to look like Ken Williams.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I read that too. I didn't clock that when I was playing.
On my own, no. I did not either.
Yeah. There's a, Cedric the Owl reference.
Yes.
They call him Cedric, which kind of upsets me. Why are they saying it like that?
Did you guys in your version, did you see Cedric get picked to pieces?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so
I saw the vultures looking at him, and I saw him sitting there, but they never attacked him.
On this playthrough, that's what I saw too, but I remember seeing Cedric getting pecked to bits by the vultures.
Yeah, same. I remember that very viscerally in my initial playthrough.
It's a terrible image. He looks really unhappy about it.
Had you played King's Quest V as a kid before?
Before I saw that, yeah. So I knew what they were talking about. And I mean, they also have like Leisure Suit Larry is in the game, like his ancestor.
Is he in the outhouse, or where was he?
Yeah, he appears in a few places. He's in the bar sometimes. And that's actually something I love about this game, that again, I feel like there's a through line to what I like in my games, is that the townspeople can be found all over town throughout the game. Like you go one place and you're going to see them again, and they're going to have something relevant to say about what's going on now. And, there are no NPCs in the game that feel totally dead. You're always getting new prompts from each of them.
Right.
I do. Yeah, I always appreciate that in a game. I like a character that moves around and, changes on screen. It does make it feel like alive. I would say these characters are very alive and,
And there's a lot of that like, sight gags that just like appear sometimes when you walk onto, like the Cedric thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then somebody just gets thrown through the saloon window.
Yes.
And then
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
time you enter the room, a guy's fixing the window.
Yes, that is a wonderful detail.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a lot of stuff like that, and then people just like walk past you in the town. Also, if you, and I didn't realize this till way later, if you follow them, they walk into the next screen. I
Yeah.
know that's such a
Yeah.
stupid little thing to be excited about, but like
It's a big deal though, because
Yeah.
like, yeah, this was 1993. I mean,
Mhm.
Sierra was always amazing at their tech and design. I also really like a lot of the framing of this game. I don't know if you feel this way, Meredith, but I feel like Dagger and this game share a lot of like artistic moments where there's
Yes.
like cutaways and framing. When you enter the breakfast place, which is called Mom's Cafe, it's just beautifully framed.
Oh
in this
yeah,
with this
wonderful like
yeah.
deep foreground elements.
Yes.
When Freddy walks behind this bottle, you actually see a distortion of the sprite.
Yeah.
Very impressive stuff.
Yeah.
No, I'm really I'm definitely in love with this particular era of Sierra art, and I believe the games were probably being made around the same time, right?
Yes.
I actually saw a screenshot from a prototype stage of Freddy Pharkas where the action cursors are from Dagger of Amon-Ra. Like they were making them,
Yes.
just making
And
it from the same thing.
Gabriel Knight came out the same year, which this is all 1993, I believe. And
man.
I was getting this great nostalgia, this great visceral feeling whenever a door opened. They all use the same like door closing and opening.
Yes,
effect.
yes, they do. It gives me anxiety because I think there's going to be like a murderer on the other side. I'm going to witness a murder.
And Dagger, yeah. Yeah, it's great. But Sierra, they were always amazing at that. They were always, Ken Williams very much cared about tech. He wrote a lot of very nerdy articles about tech and design. And yeah, I don't think people realize that how important some of those visuals were. And even like I said, the lip sync technology where their whole jaw is moving, not just their lips. They were really on the front of all of that.
Yeah, well, do you guys have any closing thoughts? Or I mean, if anybody has like another huge thing to go on about Freddy Pharkas, then please. But
I wrote a couple things down that I just wanted to bring up. One thing I thought was really funny is when you go to the whorehouse and every single character in there has a portrait animation. Like they did so much work to make every girl in there, including like the sexy sheep who looks like a woman when you show
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Horrifying, absolutely horrifying.
I also wrote down under favorite things and direct inspirations. The player character has sex and it's meaningful to them.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, you're right.
That's to me is so rare in a game.
Yeah.
That I felt it was worth highlighting.
Right. You're talking about when he sleeps with the Madame Ovary. Madame and the narrator, I think, at some point says like, oh, he says something shitty about it, right? Like he's using her for some sort of pleasure or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're like affectionately laying in bed chatting.
Yeah. I always
like they have
appreciated
affection for each other.
I appreciate that they portrayed that character in a good way because they didn't have to. She's kind of this Blanche, saucy, raunchy type of character, and I thought they were going to pull more jabs at her. Maybe they make her a little more heavyset. I thought they were going to jab at that a little bit, but no, Freddy and her, they have like you said, a very affectionate, positive relationship, which is
it's
nice.
very intimate. She knows his secret about being a gunslinger, and she's the only one who does. And then she's the catalyst there for him deciding he wants to like take up his pistols again and fight. So like the fact that scene is so meaningful to the character, that's just rare in video games. I appreciate that about it, and I feel like that did stay with me even at a young age.
Aw.
Oh, I do want to point out something that made me laugh about this
Uh-huh.
game. Something I thought was funny, which is when he goes back to being a gunslinger, when he's a hero at the end of the game.
Mhm.
He's in disguise because Freddy Pharkas is missing an ear
Yeah.
throughout the whole game, and what makes him in disguise is that he makes an ear out of silver and puts it on his head, and now no one recognizes it's him because he's the guy with the silver ear.
They're
not the
looking for a
pharmacist.
missing ear. Yeah, great gag.
I think that's a really good gag.
Like way funnier than like a Clark Kent set of glasses, like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
but basically in that same vein.
It's like a
Yeah,
Hannah
that
Montana type of thing. Throw a wig and nobody knows.
That can't be Freddy. This guy's got an ear.
I'm
Yeah.
counting 1, 2.
So did you have anything else in your notes?
I think let's see, did I say it all? Oh yeah, there's one more thing that I just absolutely adore about this game that had an impact on me, and it's specifically Freddy Farkas's bedroom. Every object that you look at in his room gives you a story about how he injured himself getting it.
Yes.
But they all begin as like a little bit of slang, like my, they escalate, but like my favorite one is like, you were window shopping in so and so town and your eye fell on this nightstand. They got your eye back in, but the owner didn't want to touch the nightstand anymore, so he gave it to you.
Yeah.
I love like that room is like, it is kind of like a sweet thing where like every object in it is so cherished to him, but the descriptions are also some of the funniest in the whole game.
Yeah.
That's that other side of the humor again that I really appreciate, is this clever, kind of corny humor, but yeah, I appreciate that.
It gets in there and it does not let go.
Well, that's Freddy Pharkas, Frontier Pharmacist, and a game from Sierra 1993, was it? You said?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Meredith Gran, thank you
Yes.
so much for being here with us.
This has been so fun. Thank you guys.
Yeah, super fun. And we both, me and Pushing Up Roses, are champing at the bit to get to play Perfect Tide station to station.
I'm
not
so
to
excited.
increase the pressure.
I just love all the settings I've seen so far. Oh my god, I'm so excited.
I am desperate for you guys to play it. So
we will play
I'm
it.
hard at work. I think I got something good for you though.
Hell yeah. We're gonna dig probably as deeper than maybe like I wonder sometimes if people listen to some of our deep dives and are like, okay guys, you didn't need to go that far on this.
Yes, we
Like,
do.
Like,
They're
okay,
wrong.
it was just a couple pixels, it wasn't telling us. But yeah, you could expect, I think everybody, listeners, you guys can probably expect a full Perfect Tides episode in the near future.
Woohoo!
Well, Meredith, is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Oh man.
It doesn't even have to be your stuff. You can plug whatever you want.
Yeah,
doesn't
plug
have
anything.
to be mine. Damn. I don't even know if I can get into it right now. I've honestly been so obsessively working on my own things right now that it's very hard to take new inputs. It's very hard to get excited about other things right now.
Yeah.
So I guess I want to plug me and my efforts.
Please. Is there a place people should go to keep up with your stuff?
Yeah, they can just go to like perfecttides.com or meredithgran.com and find all the socials where I talk about the game. I am currently play testing it and occasionally recruiting for new people. They can find the links to the Discord where that happens on my website. But yeah, I'm gonna talk about it as much as I can without working on it, which I'm doing constantly until this thing is done. And to you guys, before you know it, it's going to be done. To me, I'm staring down the barrel of something very long here, but it's gonna get done.
Hell yeah. Well, again, thank you for coming on. Everybody, you can email us, Matt and Roses at gmail.com. You can check out our Instagram, Save Your Game Podcast.
He did it. He got it right this time. I'm so proud of you.
And like always, please remember to go, share and review and all that dumb stuff. I forgot to mention it last week, but I did still want to address the economic blackout dates. Give me a second. I forgot to pull it up. That's why I forgot it last time.
Oh, yeah.
Because we have a platform. Might as well use it for something positive.
Well, I'm going to use it to talk about feet situations.
Okay. Okay, so this is coming out, I guess, in the midst of the Nestle boycott. And Nestle owns fucking everything, guys. So if you're participating in these boycotts, San Pellegrino, obviously anything Nesquik, Nestle related, Blue Bottle Coffee Company.
Put down the Crunch Bar. You don't need it this week.
Yeah, exactly. Taster's Choice Coffee, some Starbucks products. Basically any bottled water. Guys, if you're drinking any bottled water, just take a break from it. You probably shouldn't be anyway. Gerber is Nestle. General Mills is
Start
Nestle.
lactating now. Get that milk going. Your baby will be happy.
You can find lists all over the place, but anyway, that boycott is from the 21st to the 28th, and then Walmart boycott, which is super easy. Just don't go to fucking Walmart.
You don't need that crap.
You don't need that. No one needs that.
April 7th to 14th, and then there's another full-on economic blackout, April 18th. Again, I don't know that this is going to do. I don't know how much impact this is going to have, but it's better than doing nothing, and it's probably better for your, just ethical consumption in general, whether or not you're concerned about the current political climate.
It's a good little refresh just to know what these companies make, and whether you're buying them to begin with.
Yeah. I think there's probably, like, at this point, almost no way to ethically buy bottled water. Most of that stuff is stolen from, the
air. The air and the sea where it's free.
And we will be back next week with another really, really cool guest, guys.
Yeah, we're on a roll with these guests.
If this excited you, this next guest will also very much excite you. I feel like I'm missing something, Roses. Am I missing something here?
Well, did you remember that podcast is art?
I forgot, but I did remember that art is suffer.
Good job.